Welcome everyone to the live stream. It's Gary Robillard and Dr. Linda Codner here, and we are live here in Calgary and area, because I'm actually not streaming from Calgary. I'm streaming just south of Calgary. Anyways, Merry Christmas to everyone. We've got 7 sleeps left. I know this because we've got a little snowman thing that has a little, how many more days till Christmas? We're at 7 days. Pretty easy to calculate because it's a week from now. So, Linda, are you excited about Christmas? It's coming up quick. My goodness.
Definitely still not ready. People are running around still trying to get some of that baking, cooking, all those preparations done. Yes, they're all excited.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I haven't been in the malls. I'm an Amazon shopper now. I'm a full-on Amazon shopper. I go to Amazon and they just come to my door. I don't have to go out and fight with people in the stores. I went into, I think it was, where did I go? Winners last night to get something, and it was like, oh my gosh, do I really want to go in there? It was not pretty. And you know what you're going to see here, Linda, and I'd like to propose this somewhere down the road to some kind people. Every year on I think it's like the 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, the only people you see in the mall are men. You see men out there, and they're walking around with glazed eyes, like deer in the headlights look, and like, what do I do? It's a dangerous time of the year for the man, because we probably won't get the right gift. Like, you'll get this vacuum cleaner, and what is the heck does he want with a vacuum cleaner for Christmas? Like, come on. But some of us are a little thick. We're just a little thick, and we're not on top of things. What do you have to say about that? You've been on the receiving end of this, I'm sure.
It's not a very loving idea, that's for sure. A vacuum cleaner.
Is there a hint here? Like, what are you trying to tell me? This weight loss kit, what's this all about?
I think those store greeters, we should have more of them this week, and they just take the guy by the hand and say, what would you like to give? And then we'll take that department and help you pick it.
Yeah. How much money do you have? We'll help you spend it. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your wife. You have a little form you have to fill in about your wife. How tall she is, all these different things. And then somebody with some skills, obviously female, will help you in your endeavors.
Yes.
And it's worth the $1,500 to have someone do that.
Oh, I don't know about $1,500.
I'm just joking. Some people would probably pay that, though. I'm serious.
Some people are getting to that desperate place, which is why I thought today might be a good topic.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of advertising out there. I don't know if you've noticed it, Gary, but on Ancestry and 23andMe. I mean, I don't want to be putting in any particular plugs on any of those platforms, but they've been highly advertised, and I think it's a great gift option for somebody you're really at a loss.
Yep.
To get something different, unusual, entertaining, and yeah, it could be just the perfect fit. What do you think?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think these genetic testings are pretty cool. I got to tell you something, though. I was thinking about this just before we went live. I bought my wife one 3 years ago, maybe 4. 3 years ago. It's still in her drawer. She hasn't even used it yet. So I'm going like, okay, that would have been cool to have. And then she, I think she was pretty, oh yeah, this is cool. We'll get it. So what would be the apprehension of going and actually doing a test? Are there fears of people getting these DNA tests?
Well, I guess it starts with curiosity, for one thing. Like, we're kind of curious about our family history, where we came from. So fears, I don't know. I guess it's a little different window into ourselves. And the interesting thing, it can give you some far out health information too. So it's not just about why do I have hairy knuckles? Or why why is my hair gone gray sooner than other people seem to have at my age? Or, different things like that. People are concerned about their privacy. I guess they think that, who knows what they're using these things for, but I believe circumventing that with a substitute name
Right.
might be in order. Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
And
sorry, go ahead.
And I think there's been some issues around curiosity of, well, what are the implications on my life insurance or
Right.
other kinds of coverage if you can be shown to be a little bit more at risk for, Alzheimer's or diabetes, weight issues, heart attacks, this kind of thing.
So are these all flag? Well, we'll get into that in a second. So let's just talk about the fears. So with these fears, so is this insurance thing, is that a valid thing to be concerned about? That I go get this testing and then they can go, oh, we're not gonna cover you because of what we found in your DNA test. Is that a real thing?
I'm not sure where it stands at this point, to be honest. I am investigating that as I have sort of reopened my curiosity myself as to how I can apply this to my patients. And so, of course, I'm going to see what the platform people have come up with as an explanation, because obviously it's in their best interest to have an answer for that.
Right. Yeah. Is there, and then you mentioned maybe there's some fear around when I get my results. It's kind of you go into the doctor and you get your blood work and all this stuff, and then you're just waiting. Is that call going to come in? And and would there be apprehension of actually getting the results, saying, holy smokes, look at these things that I, genetically predisposed to or whatever? Is that a thing?
Well, I suppose you're probably already having symptoms of it on one level or another.
Yeah.
So it would then provide you with more substantiation on, well, okay, now what do I do with this information?
Right.
23andMe and Ancestry, from the reports I've witnessed, they're very baseline. It's very generic, like, where has your blood type sort of existed in the world, let's just say.
Right.
As an example, there are some few introductory health ideas that are linked to those basic platforms. I think what's more important is then taking that raw data and then you feed them into a more advanced program, which is very specific to looking at the genome types. That's going to influence how your health goes.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who are out there, if you've got any comments or questions, please put them up. So if you've got some questions, that would be really great, and we'll go from there. So let's go into why would a person want to get? Why would they want to get? And how would? Okay, let me kind of re-straight, because I've got a lot of questions on this personally myself. There is a lot of advertising about there. And why is that? Why is there a lot of advertising? Because you mentioned that it's like they're bombarding us right now with this. Why is that? Is it people feeling closer to family? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I guess it kind of ties in with the season, doesn't it? You show up at your Christmas dinner and there you go again. There's so-and-so's behavior, and isn't it a lot like such and such's behavior?
Yeah.
So we find it curious, where are we linking our individual behaviors or even our health problems to other relatives in the family. So that's why, and also because, again, it's an interesting gift for this time of year. So hence you see the advertisements, and they're discounting, even giving it on sale.
Yeah.
Why
not? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because when I think about genetics, I've really personally never really thought, other than getting, that last minute thing, oh, where's this gift I'm going to get for my wife, and get her the gift. But I really hadn't thought about the genetics, but we do talk about it, especially as we get older. I know I do. Like when I got diabetes, I started looking out, oh, my sister's got it. Oh, my brother's got it. My mom and dad didn't have it, but you start kind of going back and trying to figure it out. And I'm sure that, a lot of us kind of do that with certain maybe health things that come up in our lives. We actually go back. Is that something that you found as well?
Yeah, absolutely. People are starting to be curious about their ancestors, for instance. So, where did our ancestors come from? So, yes, there's the family tree that you can devise and sort of link their immigration pathway, if that's the case, or who all was involved with what other types of nationalities here in Canada. So, it was it strictly in Canada? We don't know, and we're curious to see how that influences us, and maybe some cultural interests, and even on a subconscious level, we find that we're looking into our past and our connections.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot of family history, and I've gone back a long ways. And most of my ancestries from my dad's side is French, so that goes back to France. But on my mom's side, goes to Scotland, Norway, Sweden. Those areas is where my mom's side comes from. And I actually went back. I went back to because my in the Scotland side got into some kings and stuff like that, and I went back to about, I think it was 900 BC on one line. It was just like incredible. It wasn't work I did. It was I just connected, started connecting, and it was like amazing. So it is a really addictive thing when you start messing around with family history, and then the genetics, like you're saying, come into that. Like, okay, well, how does that affect me? When we talk about genetics, let me ask you this: when we talk about genetics, how can we have these tests, and how can they help you as a practitioner, help us as a patient, kind of map some of the stuff that is resolved or is shown in these tests?
Yeah. Well, that's a loaded question. It's just one more tool in the toolkit. So there's, you mentioned it already, typical blood work and examination and family history taking in a doctor's interview. Then there's also these out of the box type, whether it's saliva testing, urine testing for different hormones or metabolites. This now adds another dimension to looking at, well, if we have this gene sequencing, and the SNPs, as they're called, is the acronym for a single nucleotide polymorphism. So that's why we call it a SNP. It's a combination of genes that can present in a certain pattern. So when we want to look at why do we metabolize carbohydrates this way, or why do I seem to do better on a higher fat and protein diet than my friend who needs to have some carbohydrates, these can also be explained by our gene sequencing. And then as a practitioner, what I would do is then get the results and look at your current diet, and maybe this is where we need to augment or decrease to get the results of weight loss, for instance, or having more energy.
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. So, so it's another layer of stuff that helps you see a bigger picture. Can you, when you get these tests, if a person doesn't have something that's shown up now, when you see them, is this something that you can look as a predictive thing, saying, well, you have this. The idea is not to trigger it. I don't know what's the best word. Is that?
That's correct. Yeah. So, just like the Christmas bulbs that you see around the frame, do you want that bulb to grow and glow brighter, or do you want it to be dimmed? Because if you want it to be a brighter bulb, because it takes your metabolism of, say, proteins down a different path to produce more estrogen and then you have another bulb that you want to select and brighten the degeneration of estrogen into a less offensive type estrogen and a more positive estrogen. And what can you take and do to augment that pathway? Because you have this gene sequence that's showing up. So, yeah, there's different ways to turn on the gene and turn off the gene. And there's a famous story about these types of, I think they're called Adobe rats. And the quick story around that is they noticed that the rats would be born and then they would move on to becoming obese later in life. And they found that when they gave the pregnant mother rat a certain nutrient while she was carrying these babies, they later on did not turn into obese rats. So that gene was turned off that turns into obesity when that particular nutrient was supplied to the pregnant mother's diet.
Wow. That's
So
amazing.
it goes back even before one was born to influence these genes. Hmm.
So, when we talk about different things that we can do, for an example, we talked about stress in previous streams, and I'm under the understanding that stress can be a trigger, but obviously stress is doing something physiological that changes whatever that tips the scale, and all of a sudden puts you into that whatever shows up on that DNA test, that you may have a preceptibility to it. You become closer to that because of and I'm kind of putting the pieces together, like stress changes stuff, chemistry in your body, you're not taking the right nutrients, you're not eating well, whatever, and then all of a sudden trigger, and then away you go, you've got whatever.
Yes, and there's in one particular platform I'm examining the GenRx. It's one of my colleagues. She's in Toronto. She has dived really deep into this, and the genes that her company examine look at how you use serotonin and dopamine, which are, the mood modulator neurotransmitters in the brain, and depending on how much you can make and how you transport them and how you bind them and then how you eliminate them will predetermine your susceptibility to depression or moods or even ADD or ADHD is something that's becoming apparent. So how you process those and then how you can slow the processing or increasing the processing down, like, outside of diet and exercise and all those other lifestyle
Sure.
factors,
Yeah.
you can do things to help mitigate maybe an actual genetic predisposition to. So
Wow.
always looking at what triggered that metabolic pathway is the why, as you and I had a good discussion about looking at the why of everything. So you just don't say you have a neurotransmitter problem. You look at why have you got a neurotransmitter problem, and what is the best neurotransmitter, either medication or supplement to help this particular person. This is
Right.
where it will go into the future. So this form of testing is almost becoming a Cadillac or premium add-on to what should be available to everyone.
Wow, that's amazing. And if you've got, I just from my experience, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in my assumption here, but you talked about mental illness, and there was a tipping point for me, and it was based on stress, where all of a sudden, I ended up with severe OCD, and then I had a cocktail of mental illness stuff after that. And it seems like once these triggers, I always thought, oh, it's like a switch. You can go in and, the switch clicks and then you can go and just turn it back on again. But it's more like a dominoes. It's like you can't get back to the way you were. It seems like to me, at least for all the stuff that I've kind of worked at. Correct me if I'm wrong. So when these things trigger in the DNA sequencing or whatever, however you described it, can you ever get back to normal?
Like, is the switch ever fully pulled down.
Yeah.
Um, and then one would be termed broken. Not necessarily. I think there's always a reversal pattern. It may take time because
Mm.
it was probably a tipping point. So as you're tipping down, and then finally the weight of everything is very, very low, and it's a heavy subject, it takes that much more time to come back into balance. And the particular one you're talking about there is the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis that determines our tolerance, resilience, recovery from stress.
Mm.
So the genetic profile around that triad is what will impact how well you recover or not.
Oh, wow.
So if you understand that, then we know that there are certain nutrients, vitamins A, C, D, E, and minerals like zinc that are required to metabolize and move forward in any of those hormone pathways of eliminating the stress hormones or bringing them back, because sometimes we are flatlining. We've been so burnt out of chronic stress, we can't seem to raise ourselves back up to a well functioning basis, and that will affect our immunity.
Right, right. That totally makes sense. And I'm no stranger to stress. And so these things resonate with me. I don't know about you folks out there, but you know, it's a struggle. And I think getting one of these DNA tests would probably uncover and help. It's like I'm assuming in your practice that you get people that if you don't see it and you don't know about it, you're not gonna do anything about it, right? It's like, well, why go see Dr. Linda Codner if I'm feeling okay, but maybe we're stressed out, maybe we're because I know for myself, I'll just push through stuff, and we've discussed this before. It's not a good thing, but you kind of
Not,
ignore it. You kind of I don't see anything, and I'm moving forward, right? And that's not a good thing. So in your opinion, do you think getting one of these tests will help a person take their health a little more serious?
uh, well, I think if somebody is even considering doing a test like this, they're already taking their health more seriously than the average person.
Sure.
Um, what you do with the data um, is entirely always, I can prescribe medicine, the best diet to do, you have to exercise. At the end of the day, are you going to do it? So does it make you
Yeah, yeah. And from your experience being a pharmacist, it's like, okay, you're going to come and see me, come and see me when things are really bad and you need chemicals to fix you, or you're going to
right?
see me before and I'm going to give you natural stuff that's going to help so that you don't hit that problem, correct?
Yes, or it's repetitive patterns. So a recurring problem. And so let's fix the broken wheel that seems to bring that back. And the interesting thing about these programs is they do touch on all the lifestyle things. For instance, exercise. Are you better somebody to do high intensity training and then feel better and burn fat and have better cardiovascular health that way? Or are your muscle fibers and your bronchioles of a nature that you're better off doing the long distance run?
So it'll show that stuff, will it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it kind of circumvents, well, yeah, now I understand why I don't like long distance running. I'd rather go and do a fast, hard workout.
Hmm.
Your genetics actually can show that this is better for you.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So when you get these tests, these kits, is it a blood test? Is it a hair test? Is it a saliva test? What's the protocol? Whoops. What's the protocol for actually doing the test and sending it back?
At the moment, it's a saliva test, and you have to have adequate saliva in that tube, or they'll be sending it back to you, because that's happened to a few of my patients. Um, they have to, have enough saliva, be well hydrated so you can produce it. and then fill this tube up in a certain stated amount of time. That's critical. And then it's
So you don't have to fill it in one big spit. You can you
no,
can spit over a couple of days. Okay.
no, not a couple of
Oh,
days.
okay, a couple hours maybe.
Well, a half an hour.
Half an hour. Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Make sure you got enough spit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Didn't
So
know
it's
that. That was interesting.
super interesting gift, Gary. I really think it's a gift of health at the end of the day. People that are curious, and not only just from their ancestral Neanderthal, this combination of uh, types of individuals in your past, but it can also lead to interesting information about how you're breaking down hormones, what's your best diet, protein percentages, carbohydrates, fats, how are you producing and metabolizing through your liver. All of these good details come forward to take into consideration.
So
So,
probably it's a good idea. I mean, if you're doing family history, okay, now I can see where everything is at. But from a health perspective, it's probably good to reach out to you and say, okay, can you look at this and give me some more details about my health? Because you'll probably, I would think the lay person wouldn't really be able to interpret it as well as what you could do to be able to say, okay, here's what this is really saying. Am I accurate in saying that?
yes, like I said before, the entry level platforms to get the information, like 23andMe, doesn't give a lot of detail. What you have to do is then take that raw data and take it through another platform that gives you more specifics around the genetics for your health.
Can you
That's
talk about that? Like, what is that next step? Just so we're aware. So we know the 23andMe, I go get the test, I get the results. What's next if I want to go more granular, like you're describing? What do we do? Do we give this to you? Do you,
right.
and then you have a lab that you send it to? Or is that kind of
Yes.
how it works? Okay.
We ask for access, or I would ask for access to the account to get the raw data, and then I would forward that on to another health platform, and they run in costs anywhere from $300 up to $1,500.
Oh,
So
wow.
on the details and depth of information. Also, they might recommend specific supplements and actual dietary protocols for people, depending on what
Wow.
they're looking for. So, yeah, there's a lot of information that comes there. But I do want to close on the behavioral part,
Sure.
because a lot of people will be curious about their predisposition to certain behaviors at this time of year, shall we say.
Sure.
But there are plenty of studies that show that it's genetics is 50% and environment is 50%. It's pretty close. So
Wow.
the environment that you grew up in will also influence how you exercise, how you dietary preferences, and so on and so forth, versus just well, it's my genetics that makes me do this. No, it's also because that's what you observed in your household over the years. It's not
Right.
necessarily, yeah. So it's a little bit of a choice is in there as well. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
going to choose to have this behavior, or I'm going to choose to learn differently.
Right. Right, and there should be a clear line and distinction between whether it's genetics or whether this is just me, this is my character, or this is what I've seen or observed, or this is in my environment as I've grown up. There should be a clear distinction between that. Would that be right in saying that? Because it's like, I don't know, how do you distinguish? And I mean, yeah, you could throw genetics at everything. That's just genetics, right? You could use that as an excuse for everything.
That's true, but you can't really change your genetics. Like if this is your predisposition, this is how you're made, but you can alter your behavior as you can influence your genetic profile. It doesn't mean it's going to change, it's just going to be influenced, and hopefully positively.
So what does that mean, influenced?
Again, by filling in the gaps with supplements
Ah,
or medications as necessary, and being aware that it may be more important for you to do high intensity training versus endurance, both for your cardiovascular health
Yeah.
and your metabolic health. Hmm.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so the influence is really trying to avoid the tipping point of getting whatever is on. I can. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
And
cool.
sleep is so important, right? We're all supposed to be hibernating right now to a certain extent, and at least getting the projects done inside the house. I mean, we don't have to put our feet up on the table and not do anything over the winter months, but um, we need to hibernate, we need to sleep and feel regenerated. So these genetic tests that you run through additional programs can show how you transition your circadian rhythm. Like, do you go into a proper different phase of sleep throughout the night? And if not, how can that be influenced in a positive way with either supplements or other tips that can promote your melatonin and cortisol balance? Yeah.
So, folks, as you know, as you've been listening to this, you can kind of come to your own conclusions. But what I'm seeing here, and Linda, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that really, if we get one of those tests, we kind of want to get it into your hands so you can kind of give us some ideas and look at all of these influential factors that could influence whether we hit the tipping point and end up with whatever is in our DNA profile or not. And so this has been really interesting for me because it's like, wow, I could kind of dodge some bullets if I'm a little smart about this and have a guide like yourself to guide me around these particular things.
The information. So, what would stop you from doing this kind of a test? I'm curious.
Nothing for me. Like
Okay.
as far as the insurance and that sort of stuff, I'm not really personally not too concerned about that. I don't really see a reason. I think the only reason would be seeing what kind of other things that could be there that I'm not aware of, and then OCDing about it. That would be the only thing. But even at that, at my age, it's like whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. I think just stopping at the initial platform is, I mean, it's okay. It gives you a little introduction, but I think taking it to the next step and doing it as far as application of these SNPs, I think is really interesting and definitely the future.
So between 300 and 1500, like, is this like you don't know what your bill's going to be, or you say, I want package A, B, or C?
Yes, or it could be the company as well, because some companies will do a greater number of these SNPs.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Hmm.
So as you're talking to your patients, you can have that discussion of, okay, what is it? How deep do you want to go? That sort of stuff, and kind of work out a budget to be able to do that. Okay, good, good. Any
Very good.
questions out there, folks? So, Linda, there's probably, now that we're close to the end of the year, there's probably people that should come and see you if they've got any stuff on their health policy that they could use up. Am I correct in that
Yeah,
assumption?
benefits. That's right, because people's benefits sometimes are with the calendar year, so it can be a bit of a scramble trying to get in and make the most out of these opportunities. I think it's a great thing when you have an employer that is providing you with either
Hmm.
a health spending account or actual benefits to look after yourself.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
definitely. So
Okay.
it'd be great to see anybody in the next week or two. I think that's all we got left, right?
Yeah, we're at the 18th here, and yeah, it's coming up quick. So, anyways, having said that, we're going to wrap up. We're not on live until I believe it is January 8th is a Saturday, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
September 8th, or to September 8th. We're really pushing it. January 8th. And so we'll be back January 8th. Enjoy your holidays. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and all the best this season. And if like Linda said, if you've got some benefits and you need to use them up before the end of the year, give her a call. But other than that, be safe. I hope you have a great time with family and enjoy all the food. And just as Linda said in a previous one, don't overdo it, but enjoy the feast, enjoy the company.
Completely.
All
Thanks,
right.
Gary.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All the best. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Bye
Christmas.
for now.
Bye.